from Columbia in high definition. This is WIS News 10 Awareness.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. This morning, we're continuing to explore working through grief and loss, particularly during this holiday season. Now, this can be a very difficult time for many people. For those who have suffered through a failed relationship they thought would last forever, or losing a loved one too soon. Today, 4 brave women are sharing their stories of loss in hopes of encouraging those of you who may be experiencing similar pain. In March of 2012, Tiara Chanel Hopkins committed suicide. She was 16 years old. Tiara's mother, Jenny Morales, is here this morning to talk for Tiara, along with Tiara's friend, Zipporah Robinson. Thank you both for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Megan.
Let's start by talking about who Tiara was. Describe your daughter for us.
Tiara was a vibrant, youthful, beautiful, typical 16-year-old girl who had a love for life, for her friends, for dance. She had been dancing since she was 7 years old, so this was a passion of hers. And at any moment you could find her dancing or listening to her music. She enjoyed music.
And Zipporah, what kind of activities would you guys do together?
Mostly just hanging out, going to see movies. I would be at her house most of the time, you know, dancing to Beyonce and just doing young girl stuff that we usually do. And you know, she was just a really lively person, the life of the party always, and she made everybody feel like she was their best friend. She could get along with anybody. She was just an amazing person, all in everything.
So, did you ever notice any moments of sadness or depression or anything that prepared either one of you for what would happen in March of 2012?
Tiara, being the as Zipporah said, life of the party comedian, she was very, it was very easy for her to kind of hide her feelings, to put on that happy face when I would come home. So I did notice moments of sadness or things that, you know, something was on her mind, but she was 16. So in my mind, most of the time, it was just something a typical 16-year-old was dealing with. So we would talk, but
nothing out of the norm, really, to you?
Nothing too much out of the norm.
Yeah. And
no.
Zipporah, did she ever talk to you or any of her other friends about anything she was going through?
Yes, she would confide in us often, and we would all try to step in and do whatever we could to, you know, talk to her and make sure everything was okay. And we never took the time to, like, come to her, Miss Jenny, and tell her what was going on. That's one of my biggest regrets right now, because I feel like we thought that we could help her, but she needed professional help. She needed someone that could sit down and talk to her and get her through what she was going through. I mean, because it's not just something that teenagers just go through. Like, depression is an illness, and it needs to be addressed delicately. And that was something that we were very naive to at the time.
Well, of course, no one really knew anything about it. They just sort of thought that she was acting normal and she was just the vibrant 16-year-old. Do you think Tiara knew that she was in depression, that she had an illness?
I don't think she was consciously aware of the severity of what she was going through. I think she too probably thought that it was something that would pass. And I could tell the way that she brushed off her feelings a lot, that it's something that she thought would pass over time. And I think her friends thought the same thing. They thought that, you know, with talking and being there for her and listening, that inevitably those feelings would pass.
Right. And unfortunately and sadly, they did not. Let's talk about that fateful day and what happened and how you got the news.
I was actually at work that day. At the time, I was working part-time on the weekend at LensCrafters, and I was at work and unfortunately received a phone call from my oldest son, Juan, and of course I was in disbelief, and the doctor that I was working for raced me home, and of course when I pulled up there were ambulances and police cars, and it was just, it was unreal. I was, you know, in disbelief, as I still am at moments, but I was in disbelief, and very sad and hurt that my boys had to witness this. you know, so dealing with my grief, but in what I'd seen and what I'd had to come home to, but the fact that they had to witness this.
And Zipporah talks about some regret that she has. Do you harbor any regret as well?
I do. It's a constant thing for me. You know, what could I have done? Did I not see enough? Did I not listen enough? And did I not get in her business enough, basically? Because at that age, you know, they have a lot going on. And with teenagers now and the social media and outlets that they have, it's kind of hard to keep up with. So, you know, I regret maybe not being even more nosy than I already was, and asking more questions and just being a little more persistent. I regret is a part of my daily life.
But both of you are working through, I should say, your grief and learning to deal with the loss that you experience every single day. What are some ways that you are working through the grief? Have you gone to counseling? Have you gone to therapy?
I have sought therapy, and through counseling, through just being with my boys and support from my family, it's really helped me to just manage day to day with her friends around.
How have you been managing?
It's gotten better, just being around, and I just try to think of her as she was, you know, lively and happy, because if I think about the bad stuff, it really gets to me. I just like to have a good picture of her, and we talk about her with my friends and with Mama Hopkins, and we try to think of her, you know, as happy and bubbly as she was.
Right. And one thing that both of you I know like to do is you want to talk for Tierra. Tell me a little bit about this mission and this passion that you now have.
Absolutely. So there are so many young kids out there that want to talk but have a hard time, you know, confiding in their parents, just for fear of judgment, sometimes not even confiding in friends, for fear of not fitting in or for fear of judgment.
Right.
So with what Zipporah was just talking about and wishing that they had come to me or come to someone else, we want to encourage all young people to talk. And if you have a friend that can't speak for themselves, speak for them, be their voice. And that's just been our motto, talk for Tierra. My daughter couldn't say the right words. She couldn't communicate like she needed to let me know what was going on. So if you're friends with someone, if you love them, if you care about them, then you'll be their voice and talk for them.
All right, well, thank you, Jenny and Zipporah, so much for sharing your story with us and our viewers today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Still to come on Awareness, it's a loss you never get over. Another mother coping with the loss of her daughter after an aggressive illness. How she and her husband are moving forward and keeping her memory alive. Welcome back to Awareness. Christmas Day will be 2 years since Amy Hardy passed away after a hard-fought battle with breast cancer. Amy's mother, Donna, joins me now this morning. Thank you, Donna, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we see this beautiful picture of Amy right here on the table. Talk to me a little bit about Amy's personality and her incredible strength and spirit.
Amy was a Spitfire. She was very vivacious. She very athletic. She didn't come across a stranger. She was very, very courageous in her breast cancer fight.
So
very
even
proud
after
of
she
her.
was diagnosed, that strength was still there.
It
Her
was
spirit
there.
didn't
It was
diminish.
there. Yeah.
Well, and talk about when she was first diagnosed, because that diagnosis, stage 4, right away.
Exactly. It was a shock to her because she was so young. She was really, at the time that she found her lump, she was 27, and she was diagnosed in January of 28. And she found that it was overwhelming to her. It was overwhelming to all of us.
Right. And you told me that she kind of put you in your place.
She
eventually.
did. She did. There was one day I broke down and she said, "Stop it. Stop it now. I don't want people to cry. I don't want pity. I want support." It's very important that people support me and help me with the courage to get through this, because I will get through this. And her slogan that she came up with herself is that she was going to live to be 85. So we had benefits. There was a benefit that a very good friend of mine put together, and it was called Alive at 85.
She really embraced that because she knew
did.
that that was critical to her fight.
Right.
And she fought for 4 years.
4 years.
And it seems like she had a very, very strong support system with her friends, with you, with your husband. But still, she passed away Christmas Day. Christmas is soon upon us. How difficult is this holiday now for you?
Extremely. But I will say that I feel like we're making steps. First year, I wanted to just overlook Christmas altogether. I do work in retail, which, as you know, is very busy right now, and I embrace that. And by embracing that, I have also met some of the most amazing customers that have come in. I do have tattoos, and it brings up the conversation about that, and they have their stories as well. And I have really bonded with a lot of phenomenal customers, and the people at work are just phenomenal.
And that's one way you've been able to work through this grief, but
Right.
you've also sought counseling.
I have sought counseling. I attend Joy in the Morning, which I highly recommend. You have friends, you have families that want to be there to comfort you. But they can only comfort you so far, because until you've been in someone's shoes, you really don't know what a person's going through. Yes, I have improved in my grief, but I will probably grieve for the rest of my life.
But have you found a sense of joy?
I have. I can honestly say that when Amy was sick, when she passed, I was very angry with God. I couldn't pray, didn't want to pray. But over the past year, I'm now able to thank Him that she was in my life for 31 years.
And this is a joy that you cling to day in and day out. And I know you and your husband are grieving very differently. Does he have a joy in his life?
You know, I really don't know. Amy, and I know that sounds crazy, but he's a Marine, you know, the tough Marines, and his Marine brothers have been such a support to him, and I'm glad that he has them. But he doesn't talk much about it. I know we had talked about getting together and having an interview with with he and I, and he could not do it.
He's not ready.
He's not ready. Mm-mm.
But there are other things in your life you're ready for. As, for example, this Christmas, you're going to be decorating a little bit, right?
I am.
Versus last year.
I am. I decided this year to decorate 2 trees in honor of Amy, because Christmas was her favorite time of year. And if Amy had to die, I'll be the first to say, I know she's in her glory. I know she's around. However, yes, I would rather have Amy here with me, but not in the condition that she was. Right. But yes, I am decorating this year in honor of her, which is another step. I'm taking little steps, and I feel very good about it.
Well, Donna, I know this is hard for you, and I thank you so much for being with us this morning and sharing this story to hopefully inspire and encourage others.
Well, my thing is that as hard as this was, it's important to me to get the message to everyone out there, because there is a lot of depression going on during Christmas time. And I want people to know they are not alone. They are not alone. And I do highly recommend that get counseling. I found, even though I have the support of friends and families, I do not want to interfere with their
Right.
joy
Or
of
sort of
Christmas.
burden them some.
Exactly,
Right.
and burden them,
Right.
and also, I don't want to mess up their Christmas, I guess I should say. But again, joining in joy in the morning, I have found that I am amongst people who hurt as well.
Right.
But we can also find joy. I'm finding
help each
things
other.
that I can now embrace and laugh about situations that I
Right.
had with my daughter, and so it's a gradual process,
but it's
but it's a
certainly-
wonderful journey.
And it's a blessing.
Wonderful journey.
Thank you, Donna, so much.
Thank you.
Still to come on Awareness, turning loss into new life for women around the world. How one woman is supporting others through grief. Welcome back to Awareness. Our next guest created a support group for other women after experiencing her own loss. Kimberly Richardson is the founder of Widows of Opportunity. Kimberly, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So you've heard the stories of other women throughout the show about the loss that they're suffering, the grief. You were one of those women. Take us back to 2003 when you lost your husband.
Yeah, 2003, October 17th, I lost my husband in a car accident. I received the news from the coroner and the police officer. They knocked on my door around 7 a.m. to deliver that horrific news. I will never ever forget that day because I didn't expect that.
Right. And you were angry.
Extremely angry. I was hurt, but extremely angry because, you know, why me? I'm only 24 years old. I have a 6-year-old son. Why my husband? You know, and it was other things that went on with that, but definitely anger was one of the emotions.
Right. But you have found a way to work through that grief in a way that is supporting other women, and
Yes.
it's worldwide at this point.
Yes, it is.
So how did this organization start?
Well, I actually got counseling, like the ladies were talking about before, for something else, Megan, and I ended up getting help for my loss, which was awesome. You know, I was able to grieve my loss, and there is happiness after a loss.
So were you not addressing the grief, or had you sort of buried that grief from when you lost your
I
husband?
didn't know
or-
how to. I didn't know how to address it. I thought there was something wrong with me because I was an emotional roller coaster ride. It was like emotional roller coaster ride. And I'm like, am I going crazy? So I didn't really want to share that with people because some already judged me anyway. So I didn't want to go on with that.
But then you decided to found Widows of Opportunity.
Yes,
And
yes.
what is that all about?
Widows of Opportunity is an amazing organization because we focus only on widows. James 1:27 said we're supposed to take care of the widows and orphans for those who know anything about the Bible. And so that's what we do. We take care of the widows. Widows of Opportunity is dedicated to support, educate, and help widows no matter their age, race, length of being a widow, or circumstances surrounding a spouse's death.
So you have monthly meetings, and you have it not just here in Columbia.
No, we have them in Atlanta, Georgia, and Zambia, Africa as well.
How did that happen?
Social media is amazing. That's how
is.
it happened. And a young lady hit me up last year on social media, and she's from Africa. And then March of this year, we decided to launch there.
Wow. And talk about the types of circumstances, because your husband died in a car accident. What other circumstances of death do you have?
Murder, we have suicide, we have terminal illnesses as well.
Okay. And the women are able to feed off each other and get inspired.
Yes.
And, I mean, have you noticed any measurable growth or differences in these women?
Definitely. To see widows come in because I didn't have any hope. When I lost my husband, I lost a big part of me. I had no reason to live, but I lived. I woke up and I went on with life, but I really was hopeless. And so to see these women come in, I already know what they're going through because they would have that hopeless feeling. And so for them to come in and feel like there's no hope, there's no reason to live, and then after being in our support group and being a part of our organization, they're smiling, they're happy, and they have goals and hopes now. It's amazing.
And it doesn't mean their grief or their loss is over with. They've just found a way to work through it. And I want to kind of harp on that because there really is no timeline when you're supposed to get over grief. Now, the accident happened in 2003, but the organization didn't come around until when?
2011.
Right. And during that period of time, you were trying to work through
It took me
things.
5 years to understand my husband, to accept the fact that he's never coming home. And I know that if Widows of Opportunity was there at the time for me, or an organization similar to that, it wouldn't have taken me 5 years to get through my loss.
So 5 years of denial.
Definitely denial. I was waiting on my husband to come back.
Wow. And how is your son handling it? Because he obviously was going through grief as well.
My son is, you know, he has his days. You know, that was his daddy. It's a big difference. You know, that was my husband, that was his father. We only get one mom and dad, and so it still hurts, especially around the holiday season for a lot of us. You have the happiness. Everybody's happy.
Right.
Everywhere you go
Right.
is happiness. So he's affected with that a little bit with the kids talking about Christmas and their dad and their mom. So it hurts a little
Well,
bit for
he's
him.
working through that, and the support group is doing great things for women.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kimberly. We'll post all this information on our Facebook page and on WISTV.com. We'll be right back with a final thought. Grief and loss is something mostly everyone has experienced at some point in their life. From counseling to support groups, there is help to get you through the grief. We have resources posted on our Awareness Facebook page and on our website, WISTV.com. I'd like to thank all of our guests this morning: Jenny Morales, Zipporah Robinson, Donna Hardy, and Kimberly Richardson. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.